Hey, Chris Manning here from the Locked On Cavs podcast. Coming up on today's show, Evan and I are going to talk about Cavs Media Day. The Cavs season is getting closer and closer and closer. We are back in person at Media Day, getting to hang out with a bunch of our media colleagues and talk to a select group of players. We'll dive into that and also hear and talk a little bit about Koby Altman and JB Bickerstaff had to say in a 30-minute or so scrum from the Cavs general manager and head coach. So a lot to dive into, but let's play our little intro and we'll get into it.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, we're back. We're live. It's Media Day, almost the end of September. Evan, before I ask you how you're doing, just want to remind people the best way to support the pod right now, go subscribe on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. Season's getting closer. We're going to have a ton of great stuff for you here on the Locked On Cavs channel, whether you're listening or watching on YouTube. But if you want to support the show, you're a listener again. We have enough listeners every single day here that if you get us to our goal, you could do that by just going and subscribe right now if you have not already. And I know there's a bunch of you that haven't because the numbers don't lie. But Evan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. First off, I want to thank everybody for joining us post Media Day. Chris and I are very tired, but we appreciate it if we are your hashtag.
I don't know if
first,
I'm tired. Oh, yeah, first listen. Hashtag first listen.
Hashtag first listen of the day. If you're watching us on YouTube, if we were your hashtag first watch of the day, also means a lot to us both. It really, really does. Your continued support means a lot. Chris is able to get his fifth Cybertruck. We had no media access like the folks at Locked On Mavs did, but yeah, alas, I'm good though, man. All things considered, I'm going to get my third COVID vaccine on Friday. I think that's a little controversial to take in the NBA sphere.
Well, that's a good segue. So let's just hop into that.
Yeah, let's just hop into it, man. The Cavs are a progressive organization, despite how Larry Nance Jr. feels about Cleveland.
Well, he said the quote that he had that I showed you at Media Day was about Ohio, and he's not wrong if you want to look at the political landscape of it all, but. Basically, the COVID was one of the big NBA stories. And obviously, I think everyone has seen the Bradley Beal comments, the Kyrie Irving situation in Brooklyn. Celtics coach, their new head coach Udoka, has a breakthrough case despite being vaccinated. So, I mean, we went to Media Day today, one of the things on my list was I want to kind of get a better idea of the vaccination status of the team because
I'm
important.
Shocked you were like one of the last questions for Koby and JB's media availability.
I thought
you were the first one to bring it up.
Well, so here's the thing. So I asked about it, and I asked Koby and JB, and I got a short answer, but they basically said, Koby, I asked them if they were happy with the number of players they had vaccinated, and they said, yes, we will be at 100%. To paraphrase, we'll be at 100% within a few weeks. So essentially the whole team is going to be vaccinated. Now, you ask, people could be listening or watching and asking why this matters. Ohio and Cleveland specifically does not have some of the same legislation and mandates that some of the other markets in the NBA have, aka Brooklyn and New York, aka San Francisco. What's going on with Andrew Wiggins out there? The Cavs don't have that. When the Cavs travel to those markets, if they happen to have had an unvaccinated player, that player wouldn't be subject to those regulations because they're just traveling in and yada yada. But to reach back to like the NFL, one of the things that really struck with me with like when Baker Mayfield, for instance, was talking about it was like, it's a competitive advantage to be vaccinated, right? If you can have 100% vaccination rate of your team or close to it and frankly, listen to the science and just be healthy, like you're potentially like you're not putting yourself at risk of missing a key player for a long stretch of the year due to COVID. And I don't want to get into like you can go check out Locked On Wizards, go check out Locked On Nets for like the analysis of those teams. I don't want to dive into that.
But Locked On Nuggets because
Michael Porter Jr.
Just got max specs.
But there's a lot going on. And Locked On Warriors, obviously, if you want to go check out the Wiggins situation, there's a lot.
Or listen to Locked On Buccaneers, which I think Tampa Bay is the only NFL team that's 100% vaccinated, just because I think Bruce Arians and Tom Brady intimidated everybody into getting vaccinated.
Yeah, and like
he's like, listen, we're a Super Bowl team. We got to defend the title. And like Baker said, it's a competitive advantage to have your team fully vaccinated because like right now, Kyrie Irving cannot play in Brooklyn or practice in Brooklyn. Andrew Wiggins can no longer practice. He was able to practice one-on-one with Warriors trainers, but he's no longer allowed to do that. He cannot play 41 games in San Francisco, like, I don't know if teams will void checks because of this. Like, this could get really murky really fast. Like, there's going to be a lot of interesting developments on how things go. Like, I don't know what DC's policy is, but like Brad Beal could have some implications on this as well. But then there's like travel situations too. I mean, like the Cavs are going on a West Coast road trip. Kobe talked about that too.
But again, like the regulations don't apply when you go there. So if the Cavs like have someone in that time span that still hasn't gotten their vaccine or isn't, depending on your timeline, like one of the things with other markets is like, okay, they could get the one dose and be good technically, but like if they get one of the two, if they get the Pfizer, they're in the Moderna, then it's a 2-dose situation. Then like you can get there. So I think that was, to me, Evan, just
Chris, are you a Pfizer fanatic or Moderna mommy?
I was hit with the Pfizer. I have the Pfizer.
I'm the Pfizer fanatic too. It's like a pterodactyl. The P is silent.
Well, I figured just based on the fact that you're getting the booster for actual real health reasons. But I think this was just notable, and I think. I was, doing what I do and thinking back through this on the way home. And I was like, okay, should I have actually asked every single player that we talked to? And there were 7 of them. Isaac Okoro did not talk to the media. He was the 8th one that was scheduled to talk. He was actually on the sheet when we walked in. He did not talk due to, according to Cavs PR, a non-COVID illness. So he was excused for the day. We didn't see him at all. But, I wondered if it would have been, I almost wonder if we collectively as the media should have asked everyone if they are vaccinated, just because it is like a competitive sports thing. Like it just is. But that to me, Evan, was one of the notable things JB and Kobe said. Kobe's really answered that question.
Well, to quote Olivia Rodrigo, good for you. You can probably ask tomorrow if they're vaccinated, because we have a media avail pretty early tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but I kind of assume that the Kobe isn't like he's speaking the truth when he's saying like he isn't, again, like whatever. But I think the other thing that they said that was notable was just about Colin. I guess, do you want to go Colin Sexton or Kevin Love to talk broader about those topics? Let's not go into
the nitty gritty real quick. Let's talk more about something that really stuck out to me with JB is the fact that he more or less admitted that the Cavs were a team that was not good at 3-point shooting, and he said we need to play with a little bit. And they move slowly on the court as well, and they said they need to play with a little bit more sense of urgency and take and hopefully make more threes. Now, granted, then he followed up by saying that teams that win in this league dominate the paint more than anything. He said, we can talk about threes all we want. That's great, but we should dominate the paint first. So I think the Cavs might have a somewhat similar offensive outlook next year, where they try to get a presence established in the interior either through Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, and then work their way out to the perimeter. And hopefully their guards, whether it's Ricky Rubio, Darius Garland, even Colin Sexton, find some of the open guys if it's Larry Markkinen or somebody else on the perimeter as well. It's just interesting to see, like, JV has kind of admitted that the Cavs offense was pretty basic and not modern. He wants to play more modern. That's something he actually said explicitly. Like, that's encouraging too. And I'm just kind of intrigued to see how he exactly follows through with that, because I'm working on a piece for Facebook, and if we're publishing this Tuesday, we didn't talk about it yet. It'll be
we'll throw it up Monday. People can find it. Can put the premium listener on.
Okay, so subscribe to Write Down Euclid, and you'll get it in your feeds tomorrow morning. But the Cavs are banking a lot on their internal development, and I think JV being self-reflective and realizing like there's some issues he needs to still work out the kinks with this Cavs team is refreshing to hear.
Yeah, so I think they said the right stuff, and I think Jared Allen.
Everyone said the right things. Kevin Love said all the right things.
Well, we'll talk about Kevin because his disposition was I think a very much eye of the beholder kind of thing. But I think we should do a whole episode on what JB had to say and kind of dissect it a little bit more, because I think there's more to ask him. I think I think tomorrow, like when he speaks, asking about what he thinks about like Darius's role in this and stuff, I think will be really worth kind of diving into and something. And I almost feel like we need to ask a little bit more about Colin than was asked about today, because it was a very Darius Garland heavy day, and you probably need a little bit more of a kind of balance there. But it was very notable that he kind of went out of his way to say, like, look, like we want Garland and Sexton to take more threes. Like we want them to be more aggressive in getting up 3-pointers, and we need to play a certain way. And I want to see if that holds. I want to see how that bears out. I want to see if some of the offense does evolve in that way. Again, it's the right thing to say media day. The diagnosis is correct. I think acknowledging that makes a ton of sense. That playing faster, I think, makes sense too. Let's see where this gets us a month into the season. Let's see where this looks like. Like we need to, before we're like crowning this, I think I kind of want to see where we get to with that. But that was notable, and he basically kind of like without saying it, it sounded like he wants to move the team. To me, it sounded like he wants to move the team more towards like a rim and like rim / free throws and 3-point, like very analytic friendly offense. Like it's not saying like they're not going to take mid-range shots. It's obviously a part of Colin's bag. Darius likes the floater, etc. But it's the way he's talking about the paint. It's like, okay, like we're going to get to the rim and get free throws, but then that's going to loosen things up for threes and kickouts and stuff. And we're going to become more efficient that way. So if that's like the template, I want to see where that kind of takes us. But Evan, we got to take a break.
Speaking of templates, my man, the template for fantasy basketball is pretty broken. And in 2018, our today's sponsor, Sleeper, realized that games were being won and lost on whose players had more scheduled games that week. It made no sense and required very little strategery. So, in 2020, Sleeper released a brand new way of playing fantasy basketball. It's called Game Pick, and it's only available on Sleeper. In Game Pick, owners pick a single game per week for each starter to count towards their team's total score, ensuring an even numbers of games played between opponents. The days of losing because your opponent's players simply had more scheduled games to play in that week are over. The days of mindless daily busy work are over. The days of giving up halfway through the season because of that busy work also over. In game picks, you pick one game per week for each player based on player matchups, home versus away, opponent's defensive ranking, pace of play, and more. All that adds up to more strategy and less busy work. Whether you prefer redraft, keeper, or dynasty, Game Picks has you covered. Sleeper cracked the fantasy basketball code, and if you play fantasy football, or if you, like I use Sleeper to play fantasy football, or if you prefer building out a weekly strategy versus daily busy work, you're going to love Game Picks. Download the Sleeper app and start a league with your friends today, and you will not be disappointed. Sleeper's one of a kind game pick is the most strategic fantasy basketball experience in the industry.
Also got to tell you about our friends at DirecTV who are bringing TV together. Like you obviously, everyone out there has these issues with TV. You know, you have your cable login, you have your one device that lets you catch the game live, you're checking highlights on your phone, and you're borrowing your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get your TV all together, and that's DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there is no annual contract. Also, they have Valley Sports Ohio if you're in the Northeast Ohio area, and that matters for Cavs games. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required, and your content varies by package. Okay, so let's move on to Colin Sexton because, number one, I want to say, well, actually, real quick, I want to note that I just want to say Ricky Rubio, the hair. Unbelievable.
It's really gave me a run for my money because I said if you put Ricky Rubio, me, you, and Danny Cunningham in the same room, I'd have the second best hair out of the four of us.
No, I have better hair than you. My fade's tighter, bro.
Can't even see your hair because of how light it is.
That's it's just well done. Danny has no hair, so whatever. But Rubio's hair is just incredible.
I'd say natural oils. Like incredibly lush. Like did like the model pose and everything. Like scrunched his hair and fluffed it back.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
This guy knows what he's doing.
Unbelievable. But so Colin Sexton was, I thought, very engaged in his media in a way that he sometimes. I just thought he was like he seemed very happy. He seemed very exciting.
He seemed amped.
He seemed amped, and I think he was asked about his contract, and so was Koby. Obviously, it's sort of the matter hanging over him right now. It's kind of the most pressing thing for him in terms of what's going on right now. And they both were like, "Look, like, we're not going to talk about this now. We're not. They're obviously never going to dive into the numbers and stuff, sort of publicly like that." But what Colin was like, "Look, my agent and Koby talk. I'm going to let him handle that." They like me, all that stuff. Koby was like, like we value Colin, like went out of his way to kind of praise him and all that stuff. I guess it's just like interesting that this is like there's a kind of a ticking clock on it now. They were asked about it at the media day. It's sort of one of those things where, there's like a little less than a month for them to kind of like figure this out if they're going to get something there. I guess, what did you make of the extension talk with Colin today?
I think it's, there's nothing really of substance. Nothing's really changed. I think the Cavs are going to play hardball a little bit and maybe get Colin down to the price range that they want. I think Colin realizes the gravity of the situation as well, especially look at like Dennis Schroeder's contract negotiations. I think that's just a good example of, now I'm saying Colin's a lot better of a player than Dennis Schroeder is, but Dennis Schroeder also gambled on himself after turning down an extension offer from the Lakers. And now look, he's playing for next to nothing. Well, not next to nothing. It's more money than, not Locked On Cavs, but the guys at the Chase Down will never see in their lifetime. But I think Colin and his camp want to get an extension done, hopefully before the season. That's kind of what I've gathered just from doing some tea leaf reading on the outside of things. But I think the Cavs want to make it happen too. Like, I think everyone's saying all the right things. I just need to see it happen now. Like, Colin is fully committed to wanting to be here. He's made it on the record known. Koby has made it on the record known that the Cavs want Colin to be here long term. Now we just need to see it happen. And I don't know if it'll happen before the deadline, which, like you said, is about a month, and even before the season technically gets underway with the preseason, probably when the season's underway at this point. I don't know if that'll happen then, but I just need to see it to believe it, because it could get messy next offseason if things drag out to that point. That's just kind of how I feel.
Yeah, JB said he wants him there as well, Colin. It strikes me as that situation is like, would rather just kind of have that kind of done. And he doesn't seem like a guy who's going to get himself too worried about that. I think Koby was right in kind of saying, I don't think this is really going to affect Colin. Like, I think if anything, like, Colin doesn't seem like a guy that's going to be too bothered if that's kind of hanging over his head, so to speak.
We were asked that during a live show, and Koby was asked the same thing. Do they think or fear that Colin may shoot the Cavs out of games more or less because of his contract situation where he needs to go out there and prove it?
Yeah, I mean, Koby kind of was just like, I don't think it's going to affect him, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be something that really kind of messes with him in any way. And I tend to think that's right with Colin. I'll be curious to see, like, if this gets done. It's obviously, I think, for Colin, like, one of the more pressing things for the immediate future with him and kind of how that works out. I think a fair price would make sense for every party involved if you can kind of get it done. And it's just interesting that he's like a tier 4 for him with the franchise. He's one of the longest tenured players with the team. Like, that's just such a funny thing to think about when he's up there. He's, I think in a lot of ways, like, it's just been cool to see him grow from, I remember just talking to him when he was, before he'd even played a game as a rookie, and talking to him about like how he used to eat like Skittles before games and stuff. And now he's like a fully grown adult who, looked like obviously in phenomenal shape, because that's just what Colin Sexton does, but seemed very engaged, very excited
from Atlanta back to Cleveland, allegedly. Legend has it.
Yeah.
And back just for good measure.
Yeah. Looked just to be, looked to be like very excited about this year. And like, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say that I think for this season, Mobley, I think obviously has a lot more to say about the future. And we should touch on him very briefly.
I thought you were about to say Evan Mobley has a lot to say. I'm like, no, he does not.
No, Evan Mobley is a very quiet guy. I thought him and Lowry had the two I thought most just like get me out of here, like media session vibes. Like Darius kind of said what
had the most get me out of their media session, because I was going through the audio, because if you
he kept saying the same thing over and over again.
He kept saying the same thing over and over again every question, and then my eyes started to glaze over, and like,
but he's like a good
sitting behind us. He's just like, Jesus, he's saying the same thing to every question.
Yeah,
unless it was the Spanish answers, which I cannot translate. But I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, let's just so Sexton. I'm curious to hear this goes. I'm excited for his season. Him and Garland, I think, could be a ton of fun.
Do you think the Cavs will let this drag out to the point where it's kind of like an albatross? Like the Kevin Love contract's gonna. I think his future is gonna be like an ongoing speculation.
We'll talk about Kevin next. Yeah, we'll talk about Kevin next.
But do you think Colin's possible extension, like if he doesn't get one, and then like that's gonna be a huge talking point for a while? Do you think the Cavs are trying to nip this in the bud and get it out of the way now, so they can just move on with it?
I think if you want to build with Colin and you can find a reasonable number, I think you just do it now. I tend to think that it just makes sense, I think, for everyone to do business while you can.
Yep.
I remember like a couple of years ago, like Jetty was in a similar situation, and Jetty basically was like I asked him immediately, like, do you care about your extension, like a possible extension not being done now? And he signed a couple of days later. Larry was asked about it. I think I can't remember exactly when Larry signed his, but it was like right around media day. Like, it's not uncommon for these things to kind of get done around this time. I tend to think that
signed his around a bunch of blue collar workers while Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
The Kevin Love one is a one of one.
There's not a lot of parallels there, but there's something.
The Larry, it's the post rookie scale extension thing with Jetty, and then with Larry, I think is kind of the most apt one. I think it makes sense if they can find a number that makes sense. and what is being said is true, that both sides want to continue to be partnerships with each other. I think it makes sense for business to get done. Evan, let's take one more break. And I'm going to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. And I had a Built Bar Media Day. I ate a cookie dough chunk Built Bar, which you can still order right now. And look, if you don't know, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. They have so many delicious flavors, so there's something for everyone. My favorite flavor is honestly the cookie dough chunk is kind of unbeatable, but cookies and cream is great. Mint brownie is great. Coconut is great. You can't really go wrong. And if you haven't tried all of the flavors, you can get a mixed box where you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. Remember, not only Built Bars are the best tasting bar out there, but they're healthy for you as well. 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty and all healthy. So order today. Get that cookie dough chunk, get that double chocolate, get that orange or whatever it is that you like, or Evan's favorite cookies and cream. Built Bar is also the official protein bar of the United States track and field team. So remember, go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15. That is LOCKED15, all one word. And you'll get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Okay, Evan, let's wrap up. I just want to touch Mobley. I asked him if he was...
Well, you silly Billy, you can't touch Mobley. We had to stay 6 feet away and wear a mask the whole time.
That's true. I asked Evan Mobley if he cared if he was going to start or if he expected to start, and he kind of just basically said he was going to earn it, kind of gave a non-answer, but didn't like commit to that in any way, shape, or form. I think it's
Lowry and Kevin. Well, Kevin said he doesn't care, but Lowry said the same thing. Like he's like, I don't care if I start or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the one thing I will just say is that guys tend to sometimes care in ways they're not always going to say publicly. Like Will Barton is like the example of that, where he's kind of said it publicly, but like we'll see how that sort of shakes out. I tend to think that we might be in a situation with Mobley where it's like more like LaMelo Ball last year, where like he comes off the bench and if he just forces JB's hand, then he could be starting sooner rather than later. I think it's a question for JB, like maybe tomorrow after they've practiced and something and of that nature, just to kind of gauge of it. Same thing with like, I didn't ask it today because I didn't really have the wording in my head, frankly, but I think it'd be fun to ask him about like, okay, like you have Okoro, but then you have these 4 other guys. Like, what are you looking for in like your backup through? Like, what is going to make or break? Like, who's going to get the minutes between Lamar and Denzel and Windler and stuff and Jetty? So like, there's that as well. But anything for Mobley, just because I feel like number 1 pick, obviously Cavs top pick, very soft-spoken guy. Did not feel like the focus of media day. Like I felt like it was Kevin and Colin. And Darius, and then even after that, like I thought, like Jared kind of held
Stevens because Bill DiFilippo retweeted me about it. So
the king Bill, but like I feel like Evan, despite being a top pick, like wasn't really like a focus of what we were kind of diving into on media day, and like I mean I don't think that means anything really, but I guess did you have any like takeaways from what he had to say?
Well, as a fellow Evan, I know we always we're like lasagnas, we're real G's that move in silence, but I'm gonna milk this Evan Mobley joke for the longest time because it's put me on edge every time I hear Evan. I'm like, what did I do? Shouts to Cavs comms team member BJ Evans, who's like, all right, Evan's done for the day. I'm like, all right, I guess that means I gotta go, guys.
You milked that like a dad would, yeah.
To the audience of no one laughing, so really felt my self-esteem get crippled then and there. I was even getting a chuckle from Chris because he had a mask on, but Chris has like a distinct laugh. It's not Joker-esque yet, but I haven't broken it completely and rebuilt him. So other than that, yeah, he's like, I mean, it's the same way it was during the draft when I talked with him. It was the same way during Summer League when I talked to him. He's incredibly shy. I think he's incredibly quiet. It takes a lot to get him going. I think I need to see what he looks like out there on the floor. He's getting rave reviews from people I've spoken to and just things I've kind of heard. Like,
it is that season too. It's that season.
It's 5 on none. Some of the coaches are subbing in as extra bodies on defense situations. Like, there's not a lot of stock we can take from this until the games actually matter. So when Cleveland plays Memphis, when Cleveland plays Charlotte, when Cleveland plays Atlanta, like those first 3 games, I'm really going to start taking some stock of what Evan Mobley is and isn't. Jeff Namina, friend of the pod, and Roger Thomas Truther, said that we did tamper some of his worries about Evan Mobley, but I just think the expectations shouldn't be too high, and maybe that's just a good thing on the Cavs part to kind of make the vibes good. I think Kobe made a really good point opening up to that Evan Mobley's kind of coming into a unique situation where he doesn't have to be a top pick in a highly loaded draft class where he's expected to be the world changer for the entire organization immediately. Like he's coming into a situation where there's multiple young players that can kind of soften the blow for him at times, because there's going to be some legitimate growing pains for Evan Mobley because it's just how it is for big men in this league. Other than that, and then you asked about weight concerns too. Like, it's going to happen over time. Like he kind of squashed any concerns about his weight issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long-term thing, and he's right about like it, like something he needs to like develop kind of over time. But he also did say he's bigger than he was at USC, which is notable. Like I'll be curious to see what his listed weight is at. Like I know people
I'm
were
bigger
like
after college too.
Well, him and Jared both said like we don't have their like weights, but like Jared said he's bigger than last year, and Evan said he's bigger than when he finished USC. So I'll be curious to see what those kind of numbers are. So as far as Kevin Love goes,
but I thought about it. But yeah, I am bigger after I thought about it. So my goal of reaching my high school weight is never going to come true, I think.
Not with that attitude. But Evan, let's move.
It's a shit
just come on. Okay, whatever. I believe in you. Let's talk about Kevin Love. So what did you just make of Kevin? Like they played up. I thought they very much played up. Like he's a depth piece. We're happy to have him here. I don't think he was like surly, but I think he was sort of like.
I would say he's surly. He said.
I wouldn't say surly because he wasn't like.
People said is him not wanting to be here, is shit being thrown at the wall. My guy. Let's look at the last 3 years and then tell me you still want to be here.
Yeah, I mean. I think he handled that with tact. I thought he got asked directly about Colangelo and stuff. I mean, I thought it was gonna get real uncomfy when somebody asked him about his calf. And he's like, "Calf's fine." I'm like, "Oh boy, we're getting one of these." Well,
early.
yeah. I mean, here's the two quotes that stood out to me. Is number one, to paraphrase, he basically just said like someone asked, I think it was Spencer Davies asked him about like what do you think a successful year would be, and he basically was like, if I can be healthy and be playing, like I haven't been able to do that in recent years, like I would like to just be healthy. I think, and I could believe if I'm healthy, I can still play at a high level. Like I think that was number one. And also, look, listen, it's a young team. That's obviously where this is headed and where this is going. Wherever this ends up, I just want to make sure that at least internally and when we walk into this building, that it's a positive. He was saying the right stuff. I thought JB and Koby kind of, played that line. It's just a remains to be seen thing. It's still just very interesting that he is on the roster. He's year 14. Like it's just one of those things where it's just still kind of odd that he's there, and it is what it is.
It's not odd that he's here. It's odd that he got this extension.
But like we're so far past that. It's just like that is what it is now.
Talking point. I guess it is.
Well, and if you if you compare it to like how like the John Wall thing was discussed at Rockets media, they haven't gone back and like watched the session, but it's like him and their GM Raphael Stone and John Wall shared the podium together. And John is like, I'm not going to play, but I'm going to be around all year. I'm going to travel. Like I'm going to be a part of like the group, even if I'm not going to be playing in games and an active member of this team. So
would you be surprised if they did that with Kevin? Because if they headed in that direction, I wouldn't be surprised. And like, I don't think that's a bad thing as long as Kevin's being a good company guy about it.
Yeah, I would like to. It'd be interesting to see like him and Koby, like, or him and JB. Like him and JB have a relationship at a deeper level, I think, than him and Koby do. I don't think that's like a stretch to say. I'd be curious to see like.
Well, Kevin really did say it. He said he was JB's rookie when he was in Minnesota.
So like they go back in a way that like him and Koby necessarily don't. And I would just be curious to see how it would get there. And look, if he doesn't. If that doesn't happen, he's going to play, and I think like he would like to play, and I think it's just what his role looks like will be a fascinating thing. I mean, like how is he deployed off the bench? Is he playing only sermon nights? Does he sit up back to back? So like, there's a lot of questions about what that looks like. Well, they talked a lot about depth.
He kind of talked about that a little bit when he said, I'm well aware of the fact that, like you said, he's well aware of the fact that this team is transitioning into a younger phase and more or less for him. But he's like, if a guy's like on the hot hand, let's say like Lauri Markkanen is having a hot night, or Evan Mobley's having a hot night, or Jared Allen too, like it's going to be those three.
Or if like Kevin Love is having a night where he's like,
Kevin Love, he says he's going to have to earn his minutes in this rotation. Like I think he knows the reality of the situation. Like the Cavs are moving on clearly, and if he wants to get some serious burn on a night-to-night basis, he has to earn it, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I'm saying I want to see what the broad strokes look like.
Well, we
know.
I guess
We
we
know.
just won't know until the games mean
But
something.
that's what I'm saying. It's like this. The thing with we know the broad strokes, and I think this is the thing with media day. All of this stuff is said. There's a lot of stuff that I think gives us some information, but a lot of this is just like I need to see 10 games or opening night, and then like start like understanding stuff once we get some more like firm game action data points. Like it's the same. It's similar to what we're talking about the Colin extension. It's like until it happens, until it doesn't happen or whatever, it's sort of impossible for us to know like what this all sort of looks like and where this is headed and everything. And like with Kevin, it's just like we need to see like him be healthy. I think that's obviously the biggest thing here. But also just kind of see like how JB is going to deploy him. I'll be how JB manages the rotation and how he sort of deploys different groups and how he tinkers and stuff throughout the year. It's just going to be really interesting because like and they were so positive about the depth up front. And I thought the questions were very positive about the depth of front. Like we need to see that too. It's like Mobley might struggle out the gate. Like Love has injury issues and all of that. Like Lowry has had his injury issues as well. And like it's kind of like, you know, I think the data and his history would show you that like if he's gonna score like in the post and stuff, like that's gonna be something that is new to his game this year. And like we need to see how Jarrett, you know, he's gonna shoot some threes and like, I want to see what that looks like. Like, there's just like a lot I need to see with that before I'm like they have bodies that are good and they have like some name brands there, right? But like, I need to see like what that all actually I think looks like in practice before I'm just like, yes, the Cavs have good front court depth. I kind of just want to see what all of this like. It's my biggest thing I think with the Cavs. Like, I'm willing to like. I think more on Sexton now than I was like even like a month ago. Just kind of thinking about what he is. I'm in on Garland. I'm in on Okoro. Like I love a lot of these pieces. Jade, they said all the right stuff today. I think we just need to like see it in a month. And today is just like wetting the beak of us getting into covering this team this year, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting season. We're going to wrap this up pretty soon here, but I think Jared Allen is like probably the most candid Cavalier on the podium today.
Candid, but succinct in what he was saying.
Succinct. Yeah, like everything he said had a meaning to it. Like it was good. Like he had good answers to all the questions. Like you asked him, do you think you want to take more threes? He's like, well, all modern big men today want to take more threes. It's just kind of the way things are going. But he's like, yeah, that's something I want to work into my repertoire a little more. And I think like out of all the quote unquote vibe guys today, I like Jared Allen's vibe the most when he's just like, whether it's a video game or whether it's electronics or whether it's basketball, I just want to give my all. And like, it was never about money for him when signing an extension. It's just something we've always said. Something I heard from the onset is like Koby publicly saying like, oh, we won't, there's a reason. Like you asked Koby about this, like Chris Manning over here, just getting all the good answers.
Look, here's the thing. Here's just a very basic fact about me. When I ask a question, I don't always think I ask good questions. Like I fumble the Jared question, like it happens. My general rule of thumb is like, if I feel like I already know the answer to a question, I think it is dumb to answer. Dumb to ask. Like I just want to ask questions.
So the entire Darius Garland media availability.
Go check out Chris's interview from Summer League. I talked to him in Las Vegas, and he said the same stuff, including the height question. I even asked the height question.
And I did put it in the article. Same answer.
He gave me the same answers. So go read my piece at Uprocks.
Put it in the show notes, Chris. Let's put a pin on this conversation. Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow feeling fresh.
I talked to him where? Summer League. That's right. Doing the work.
Chris cooked in the Vegas sun during Summer League. I literally
survived the smoke warning so we could record a podcast outside of that arena.
You don't see the Chase Down doing that, do you, folks?
Y'all must have forgot that I'm not here working. But anyway, that's going to be it.
Thanks for checking us out, as always, on YouTube. Like Chris said at the top, if you're a regular listener to this show, why the heck aren't you subscribed to us? Yeah, you can look at our beautiful faces. Me in a more dressed down scenario. Chris still wearing what he wore to media today. He should have just kept the pass around his neck, too.
Honestly, TBH, not my favorite Cavs media looking pass of all time.
Well, they're still adapting to a post-COVID world with us in it. And we're back to Zoom tomorrow, though. We'll see if there's actually any immediate attendance. I have my doubts because of the 6 feet rule. But yeah, check us out. Subscribe to us. Check out Chris's piece at Dime. Subscribe to me on Facebook's Write Down Euclid. Subscribe to Chris anywhere you want him to subscribe at. And we will be back tomorrow with more Media Day chatter, maybe some reacts to media availability tomorrow for the first day of training camp. So yeah.
That's right. We'll talk more. I think the JB offense is something we're definitely going to dig into a ton. Again, smash that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.